Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're taking a quick look here at Bitcoin just with a weekend update for you. Again, I get a lot of requests here or questions. It's like, hey, this ascending trend is going to break to the upside. What's going on with that? Well, statistically speaking, you're more likely to break to the upside on an ascending trend and down for a descending trend, of course, because what's happening is the price action is working itself into a wedge. It's effectively making higher lows. Okay, so the key here is that the higher lows are being established, therefore printing, potential bullish breakout to the upside, right? So keep that in mind. That is potential there, but you also got to recognize too that we had some lower lows here as well, and we haven't really established higher lows yet. Okay, so again, we're kind of in that funky place right now where we're range bound. The price should break to the upside, but I would not be surprised if it breaks down as well, or at the very least retest this trend line here with a drop to just say 28,000, perhaps even lower, 27.6. Okay, so to me, I'm still leaning a little bit more towards shorting in the immediate future, but I do think the long-term potential is there for the price to break that 29K mark. Okay, so again, that's just kind of what the charts are telling us. So keep in mind, if you are new to the channel, I love teaching people to trade. Hope you can learn something here today, of course. And thank you so much for all your support over the years. I've had quite a few amazing members continue to watch, so thank you again so much for that. And again, you want to become a better trader, cryptocash.tech is a site. Link down below. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick peek at some larger scale stuff, which is, of course, the back end high block capital data here that we can see that you don't really see on the charts, right? So what we want to look at is some liquidation levels. I cover this, I try to cover this in most videos, but it's really important to recognize that with high block capital, or just in general, the back end stuff that you cannot see, liquidation levels are very important. So we see the most amount, and this is the 1 week time frame here, by the way, for the liquidation. And we can see here that in the last week, 25,700 is the second to most amount of accumulation to the downside. The first most, of course, is 27,300. So that's the most amount of volume of positions opening and closing, or essentially remaining open at this level. Okay. Now again, liquidation levels are places where the price action will actually get liquidated, but it's also the price in which it's also the point in which the price hasn't hit yet. These are like open scenarios here where people have keep opening and closing their trades at those levels. Okay, so generally speaking, 27,400, that's a nice support level there. And obviously, big surprise, 29.5, just a little over 29,000 is essentially another resistance. So it's going to take a little bit of effort to break above or below in either scenario. However, right now, with us being closer to that 29,000 mark, being fairly range bound, and haven't retested that trend line yet, I think there's a good chance we're going to have that gravitational pull back down to the 27.6 mark, and then potentially break to the upside from there. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for somewhere along the lines of a long position in the 27,000 range, but I think a short to that area would make a lot of sense. And let me explain why. So if we take a look at open interest, we can see 28,400 is the most amount of accumulation in general there of volume. And this is just based on the last 12 hours. Okay, so keep in mind, open interest in the last 12 hours is just kind of focused on the current price point right now. Let's take a look at the larger time frame here. So go with 7 days and kind of see we have the most amount of volume at 28.5. We move down here to see roughly what that looks like. And we have a lot more asks than bids, basically just implying that people are trying to short more. And of course, we have an equal amount of longs and shorts getting liquidated. So what that tells us here, with open interest being a little bit higher and the price going sideways, there's more potential for downside because of that simple fact. Because oftentimes when the price goes up and the open interest increases, there's a continuation of the upside. That's what we're looking for. See, if you can see here previously, there's a lot of open interest at this level where the price action was pushing really hard, and with there being less open interest now, that implies that there's less volume. Volume speaks very loud. You want to pay close attention to that. No pun intended there, but it is absolutely an indicator that you want to kind of understand. That's where my CC Golden indicator usually has very high success rate, because it's based on volume and moving averages, and it has essentially RSI built into it as well. I have instructional video on the homepage if you're curious about that. We've got a lot more people purchasing that than I did expect, but it's working out very well. Super, super awesome. So be sure to check that out in your own time. But what I'm getting at here is that volume is really important. We want to kind of pay attention to that. So let's just kind of quickly peek at the volume profile here and see where we're at. Again, obviously we have a large accumulation in the most recent pass down the 23,000 mark, but the overall sense of things here is that there's a lot of support in the 22 to 25 range. So heaven forbid the price does come back down, which I still feel like the bottom is in. I don't think we're going to see much lower than 20,000 again. If the price were to come down, this amount of volume at this range will absolutely support the price. So 23,000 I think should be the most immediate bottom if we come back down there. Now, am I going to short all the way to that level yet? Not quite, but I do feel like that is a strong potential for 25.3 and 23,000 to be tested in the future. Okay, it would make sense for it to retest again before it comes back up, because again, there's a lot of open space here and a tremendous amount of gaps that need to be filled. All right, so that's the daily there. MACD is not diverging or converging. It does look like it wants to diverge. It's getting closer, but it's not a strong one, so that's no big deal. The one thing I'm concerned about here is, of course, the 4-hour MACD divergence. This has occurred roughly 8 hours ago. But again, price is going sideways in this range. It's not super impactful either, okay? So keep that in mind. Just pay attention to that, of course. We want to see a significant break up or break down. We are above 50 on the RSI, which is helpful. Nice little support range there. 1 hour kind of tells us here that we are, well, once again, range bound. Even though we came down to a 9 on TD sequential, it's not a significant decrease in value. No big deal there. The cloud essentially is holding above, but our conversion line's below the baseline, and that essentially tells us we have momentum to the downside here. But once again, lagging span is not free and clear. So in truth, it's not really a phenomenal situation to trade into, if you will. There's not a tremendous amount of confirmation on the hourly. We go to just say the 15-minute, which is typically where my CC Golden indicator kind of helps you identify entry levels. There's a lot of different entry targets here. Okay, so these are all based on confirmation and essentially just telling us that long positions might be much more viable on a shorter term trade. Again, that's mostly based on the fact that we're overextended to the downside in the last 8 to 10 hours. To me, if I'm going to be summarizing and just kind of trying to understand what's going to happen this weekend or early next week, it would make sense for the price to retest 28,000 or 27.6 first before it legs up again to try to break through that resistance. But there is more likelihood, I feel, based on what we've seen here so far, for the price to go up than down. So again, we're kind of in that middle ground here right now where you kind of want to wait for the price to make a move, try not to buy the dip, so to speak, and also try not to long the top and short the bottom, right? It's easier said than done, of course, but at this point, a short just seems much more viable in the immediate future, whereas a long position would make sense too in the big picture, just based on the fact that we are, again, effectively establishing higher lows, but I'm not super sold with this lower low pattern here that hasn't truly proven itself yet. Okay, all right, so hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a complete contradiction. That's how trading is in most cases, so it's just kind of how you got to roll with it, right? The key is to work with your risk tolerance and make sure that you have a good foundation of an understanding that works well for you as a trader. So as I recommend, as per usual, demo trading is very important to do. Get your feet wet there first before you jump into leverage. If you're going to use leverage, low position size, low amount you want to take smaller trades. That's kind of the bottom line. Do not use a large amount of your position or your overall portfolio. Okay, it's important not to get wrecked. Learn small things. Yes, there's some gains you could be leaving on the table, but there's a lot more you can lose too. Okay, again, those are all things I teach in my trading academy. You can go to cryptocash.tech if you want to become a better trader. We have an amazing group of community members. I've got trading signals that I'm sending out. In fact, we're sending out day trade signals here very, very soon. So we'll have more consistency there. Then, of course, obviously, the Trading Academy, where you can learn to become a better trader. Okay, so I hope that you learned something here today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks again for your time. See you soon.